And I mentioned some of my favorite scenes earlier, such as the engagement story from Aunt May, her lessons on forgiveness, and the bare-knuckle fight between Harry and Peter, especially when Peter says, "Oh, look at little Goblin Jr. You gonna cry?" But then it's the ending of Peter and Mary Jane slowly embracing and dancing with each other. It's the opposite of epic swinging scene at the end of the first two, and I found it very bittersweet, knowing that this is the last time we're ever going to see these characters, or at least this interpretation of these characters. The music from Christopher Young in that scene, it's really, really touching. Now, I've held this off for long enough, but you're probably going to want to know, what do you think of the dancing scenes and the emo Peter stuff? About that, this is the impression that I get from people online when the dancing scenes from Spider-Man 3 come up.
No! No! Does not compute! Does not compute! Does not compute! I can't rape my childhood, will you? You'll all die! You will all die!
Now, you guys have heard this all before. It's dumb, it's stupid, people jabbing at his eyeliner and his eyelashes and various hair colors and the stupid haircut, the way he looks so stupid, yada 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 yada, I could go on. And I've said before, it's also caused people to think that Tobey Maguire's the worst thing that's ever happened to humankind, and even director John Watts of Homecoming has had to assure people, don't worry, there's not going to be any dancing scenes. And it's also caused other people to give the Amazing series a pass simply because there's no dancing scenes. And somehow people seem to think that the dancing scenes are the equivalent of Anakin's "I don't like sand" line. Or even something along the lines of the bat nipples or the bat credit card. And any subsequent Spider-Man movies that don't have the dancing scenes are like, well, at least there's no dancing scenes. You know what my response to that is?
That is not a valid excuse. I hear that every day and I dismiss it.
I'm sure that some of you who have been following me for a while or have just come across my channel probably want to hear me rant on a 10-minute tangent about how terrible they are. But to be honest, I am not offended by those scenes at all, and I must be one of the very few people on the planet that are. And they are the least of the movie's problems in my book. If you took those things out of there, the movie would have been that much different. It still would have been messy, it still would have been cluttered and all that stuff. People act like this stuff is the reason why this movie failed. It's not. It's the multiple characters and story points, as I've pointed out before. That's the reason why the movie failed. And with the studio interference, not the dancing scenes. And if I'm being completely frank with you guys, I actually find the dancing to be really funny.
Most of the time.
The jazz club scene where he starts getting into a fight with the bouncers and making Mary Jane jealous, that's when I think it gets a little ridiculous. But overall, I'm not really offended by them. Oh, it's dumb. It's really dumb. And I'm not a fan of movie Bob Chipman, but to paraphrase what he said, it actually makes sense for someone like Peter Parker, who's never been cool in his life and doesn't know what cool is meant to be. So that's how someone like Peter would perceive being cool to be like. It's supposed to look stupid. It's supposed to look awkward. And because of how ridiculous it is, it shows you that Peter Parker's not meant to be the bad boy. I'm talking to you, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I'm sorry, I had to address that. We're going to talk about that more later on, trust me. Now, before I conclude this review, I actually want to talk about how I would have done Spider-Man 3. No more relationship drama between Peter and Mary Jane. Actually have Mary Jane be supportive of Peter this time around. We've already had that the first two movies. There's no need for that anymore. Get rid of Gwen Stacy. Get rid of Venom. They don't need to be in here. Sandman, have him be a side villain that Spider-Man can fight once in a while, which they kinda did with Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the Rhino, and have Harry be the main antagonist because the series has been building up to this point and showing us what that's going to be like. And also, have another villain in here. Have at least two main villains here. Harry Osborn, and the second villain, who it should have been, John Jameson. John Jameson is known as Man-Wolf in the comics. Now, I don't know if I would have done Man-Wolf in this movie. Maybe they could have done something like that had there been plans for it. But have him be one of the main antagonists. Because think about this. We didn't really get to know him in the second film. And Mary Jane left him at the altar to be embarrassed in front of his family and friends. And Harry was one of the guys on the altar supporting him. So imagine this. Once John Jameson finds out that Mary Jane went back to Peter, and obviously he's an emotional wreck, have Harry come in and offer him a chance, a partnership to get back at Peter and Mary Jane for hurting them. That way it would fit more together with the revenge themes that they have playing on here, and actually have Harry kill Aunt May. Or maybe at least plan to, which causes Peter to lose focus and start to rail on Harry in the final fight. That's just a general idea of what I would have done, but I think that would have been a lot better and a bit more focused than the film that we actually got at the end. Again, I don't know how exactly I would have done it, but have him finally realize and accept that Norman killed himself, not Peter. Again, I know that's not much depth to go into, but that's the general idea that I would have done. But guys, in all honesty, Spider-Man 3 I don't think is that bad. I think the hate has been blown out of proportion in the last 10 years, especially in the wake of the reboot that came out in the years that followed. But I understand that it's a very divisive movie, and I'm sure I'm going to get some various opinions in the comments down below, but what are your thoughts on Spider-Man 3? It's very polarizing. Some people actually love this, or even like it, and I'm not going to tell you guys that you're idiots, but there are people who hate it, and I'm not going to tell you to get over it, but there's people who say that this is one of the worst comic book movies they ever saw, or one of the worst films they ever saw. I don't know why. Have you ever seen Halle Berry's Catwoman? Seriously, have you seen that? Or Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin? Or this? Or even this? No? Well, go watch those movies that I've talked about, because they are far, far worse than Spider-Man 3. Trust me on that. And it's a huge bummer that Spider-Man 4 never happened, because I know Sam Raimi wanted to make a redeemable end conclusion to the series, and I've seen the storyboards for Spider-Man 4, and it actually looked like a really fun and redeemable movie, as I said. And even though I like Tom Holland, I'm still a little bit bitter that we didn't get Spider-Man 4. But I would have been totally down for seeing Spider-Man 4, especially after Marvel and Sony made the agreement, and how they could have had Tobey return as an older Spider-Man. That I think would have been really cool. But in any case, I would like to know what your thoughts are on Spider-Man 3. Do you love the movie? Do you hate the movie? Or do you think it's alright just like I do? I think it's entertaining, but an average film at best. Whatever your thoughts are, I'm prepared for it. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are, and stay tuned for my review of The Amazing Spider-Man. We'll see how that goes. And I'll see you guys next time.